The Daily Derech. We are walking the path of holiness.
Hello, everybody. This is Rabbi Marcus Rubenstein. Welcome to the Daily Derech, a special project of exploring Judaism, the United Synagogue of Conservative Judaism, and the Rabbinical Assembly. Today is the 6th day after Shabbat Kodesh, the 28th of ER 5786, corresponding in the secular calendar to Friday, May 15th, 2026. We will read Parashat Bamidbar this coming Shabbat, and it is the 43rd day of the Omer. Let's begin. Me'am Loez on the Parsha. We're going to continue to learn about the book of Numbers here and specifically counting. We're going to spend one more day on Parashat Bamidbar because there's at least one more day of the week. I know I said yesterday that we were going to move on, but hey, I made a mistake. So we're going to do one more day, and then trust me, we'll do something new next week. So let's talk some more about counting here. And here I really wanted to bring this particular source from the Me'am Loez because I thought this story was so interesting, and it also, of course, it provides a new concept, a new idea for us, or at least an elucidation of an idea we've been talking about, but really fun because, well, it brings a story about demons. Yeah, you heard me right, demons. So what do demons have to do with counting? We're going to find out today from a story from that the Me'am Loez quotes from Masechet Chulin, 115a, a tractate of the Talmud, about a particular story of when porters were carrying wine in goatskin vessels, and they would rest at intervals. They would put down the vessels for a second so they could rest. So one time when they were resting, they came back, and it seems that all the product is gone. Someone poked a hole in the barrel, and it seems to be that these porters actually saw who did it. That it actually was a demon that appeared. And of course, the Gemara just says, "Yep, it's a demon." They don't even express why am I talking about demons or anything like that. It's just implicit that, of course, there are demons. And you know, in Judaism and Talmud, it's sort of a bigger idea, but demons are sort of seen as troublemakers, sort of mischief makers, basically seen as, they're literally called mazikin, or damagers, or people who damage things. Like, they cause mischief, they cause chaos, right? They're not necessarily seen as like the worst thing in the whole entire world and super demonic and horrible, but like kind of more just like mischievous. So we see that one of these demons comes and pokes a hole in the barrel. So, of course, what did the porters do? They go to a Beit Din. They go to Mar Bar Rav Ashi and say, you know, we need restitution. Someone destroyed our product, and now we need restitution for that. And basically, Mar Bar Rav Ashi does something crazy, saying you're 100% right. We have to sue this demon. You have to sue the demon who did this to you. So they bring in this demon because, of course, the demon can come to court and be held liable for the demon's crimes by human courts, because that's just what happens. And Mar Bar Rav Ashi basically says to the demon, "Why'd you do this?" You know, and he says, "Well, they put down the barrel, they put down their product, or they put down the vessel on my head where I was sleeping, and it was very upset. I was very upset, and so." I couldn't get up. It was on top of me, so I poked a hole in it, and that was it. And he basically said, "What right do they have to put the barrel in my space?" And of course, the Beit Din then says back to him, "This wasn't your space. This is public property. It's public thoroughfare. You can't just put you can't just sleep anywhere. You're if you cause damage to other people's property in public property, then you have to pay restitution." So the Beit Din says, "Give me a minute," because he doesn't seem to have the money at the time. And he goes, and he actually takes a long time to get the money. Eventually, he reappears to the Beit Din again with the money. And the Beit Din asks him, "Why'd you take so long?" And he replies, and this is the key reply here. This is the key of the story of why it's being brought here. The demon says back to him, "Know that I am powerless when it comes to things that are either fastened, sealed, or measured. Since I have no money with which to pay them, I had to wait a considerable amount of time before finding something that was abandoned as ownerless and hence free of these drawbacks." So the story here is brought to show the power of counting, right? So things that are counted and kept track of very carefully, punctiliously, these things, the demons, sort of the mischief makers, do not have any power to do anything with. They only have power to do things that are abandoned or aren't taken care of properly or aren't really counted. So this comes to tell us that just as God counted the Jewish people also, and to show them that they're precious, it also shows that it defends them against demons. It defends them against things that are damaging, against chaos in life, because it shows that it's precious to God. So this is actually a way of God protecting the Jewish people by counting them, by pushing off adverse forces. Now, I think this is, of course, important in our own life too, that the things that we count, the things that we take care of, there's less likely something horrible or some chaotic random thing is going to happen to it if we take care of it and we're sure about it. And so, it's a good practice to count the things that we really do care about, that we really want to make sure we don't even lose one of them. It's a good way of ascribing importance to something is by counting it. And so I think that's one thing that our Parsha teaches this week. Mishnah Torah. We'll continue on learning Hilchot De'ot, or the laws of personality, characteristics, or dispositions. We are in the middle of chapter 5 here, studying the special laws of a Talmid Chacham, or how a sage needs to behave. Now, I'm going to try to keep this halacha part practical. I really want these laws to be things that you can do in your lives, or things that you should know as a Jew, just to know the halacha. So I really am trying not to bring halacha that doesn't have any connection to your life. And you might be saying to me, am I really a Talmid Chacham that I should be following all these laws as real obligations? And I'd say probably not, right? No, that's not why. I'm not giving you these laws or teaching you these laws, these ones in particular about Talmidei Chachamim, because you all are necessarily, but because at least I think every Jew should try to be around Talmidei Chachamim, should try to learn from rabbis, or have a rabbi that they're close to, teacher, and find teachers who really know Torah. And I think this is a really good guide to guide people of what kind of Torah teachers should they look for. Is all that matters is what they know and what they could teach, or is there something more? And obviously, one thing I think you've seen in this over and over again is that there's so much more to being a sage in Israel than just knowing the Torah. So here we're going to continue on with the 6th halacha today. And he's going to talk today about how a Jew is supposed to behave when speaking. And I'm sorry, it's not the 6th halacha, it's the 7th halacha. We're going to learn the 6th halacha last time, if you remember. So this is specifically how a sage should speak. And I should read this one for myself, because I tend to be a loud talker. And this is good for me here. So very important, but really important to remember. So the Rambam basically says that a Talmid Chacham, or someone who is a known Torah scholar, a Torah teacher, Torah leader, or something like that, should not shout ever, and shouldn't cry out, or shouldn't shriek, God forbid, like an animal. And he should actually never, they should actually never raise their voice, but rather a sage should speak gently to everyone. No difference between people. He should also make sure not to stand too far away from them, rather to stand closely to a person, not too closely, but at a normal distance, lest his appear like the speech of the haughty or egotistical people. Right, the worst thing that a Talmid Chacham can sort of express through their behavior, whether purposeful or not, is egotism. Right, to see that they're taking the crown of the Torah and using it as their own. That's not how a Talmid Chacham should behave, and that's, I would say, that's probably one of the number one things that a Jew should look for is whether there's is there a lot of ego coming out of this rabbi or this Torah teacher, and if so, you should think twice before learning from them. And I would even say, according to these laws of the Rambam, I would think twice about thinking of them as a Talmid Chacham. Very important. Sometimes lay people need to hold rabbis to account. It's important in this day and age. And even in the tone of his voice is going to be very important to speak gently, because again, his voice represents the voice of the Torah. So it's important the way that a rabbi or a Talmid Chacham speaks. They should greet all men before they greet him, so they be pleased with him. All right. So again, there's nobody who's sort of below a Talmid Chacham, right? He should treat everyone with kindness and respectfulness and with love, trying to actually say hello to people before they say hello to him. And this takes a lot of work. This means the Talmid Chacham can't just be immersed in their books all day and not be around people, but rather need to be kind and respectful to people as well. He should judge everyone in a good light, speak favorably of his fellow man. Okay, very important. This is a hard one, right? No, try to stay away from negative judgments unless you have very good reason for so, and to try to speak favorably. Dan l'kaf zchut, right? To speak meritoriously towards people and judge them meritoriously before you really know what's going on. And the general rule here is that that he should always love peace and pursue it. And that is always what a sage should be trying to pursue, is peace, and using to try to, in the ways in which they comport with other people, to try to pursue peace as much as possible. And some good rabbinic laws are here. What is implied? If he sees that his words will be effective and will be given attention, he should speak. If not, he should keep silent. This is important. Whenever a rabbi or whenever a Talmid Chacham thinks that they need to speak about something, they should first analyze whether, if they speak, is it going to make an effect, right? Is it going to make people more angry, or is it going to bring shalom? And if it's not bringing shalom, and it's going to just make people more angry and do no positive good, then the Talmid Chacham should remain silent. Now, he tries to say he should not try to placate a man in the moment of his anger, and he should not question a man about his vow at the time he is making his vow, but wait until he is tranquil of mind and calm. So a Talmid Chacham, if they see that someone is angry or in a sort of a manic state, the Talmid Chacham should back down and not try to placate this person, not try to deal with them when they're in these moments of anger, but they should wait until the person is in a calm mind. One of the reasons is because then the person is going to get angry at the sage for, trying to speak to him in a place where he's not in right now. And also, I think once you have someone yelling at you all the time, what ends up happening is you end up raising your voice, and you might get angry and you might get frustrated. So it's really important that a Talmid Chacham needs to respect these laws. He also talks about being around a bereaved person, that a Talmid Chacham should be really, and he doesn't. So a Talmid Chacham should be really careful that if burial is either the words, the phrase that's used in the Rambam here is a man while his dead is lying before him, right? So a really intense mourner. How should the person try to comfort that person? And the Mishnah Torah says actually no, right? Because they're uncomfortable, right? I don't know what that word is, but they cannot be comforted right now. And if you try to comfort them, they're going to get angry at you and they're not going to like you. And that's important for a Talmid Chacham, because obviously causing more hatred towards a Talmid Chacham, even if it's just you, is a problem for the Torah. So we always have to really be careful with derech eretz, or the ways of people and manners, as a Talmid Chacham does, and very, very important that we hold people up to those manners. He should not distort facts, exaggerate a situation, minimize it, except in interests of the peace and the like. The guiding rule is that he should speak only words of wisdom or in connection with acts of kindness and the like. And so this is going to, be very, very important here. As a general rule, just to try to speak with wisdom at all times and constantly connect one's words to acts of kindness and goodness. Very important to a sage and very important to people and Jews who are looking for a rabbi, looking for someone who to learn from. Menorat HaMaor. We'll continue learning the introduction to the first candle today. We're going to continue speaking about the problems with jealousy and lust and how it brings us out of the world. We talked about a bunch of different biblical characters in our last episode who really failed because of their jealousy, that should have been good people, were smart people, sort of had everything going for them, and just lost it all because of their jealousy and lust and pursuing of kavod and honor. And so 3 particular, I think, egregious examples are Korach, Dathan, and Abiram, and that's who the Menorat HaMaor is going to speak about a little bit today. The idea that they really lost everything, that Korach was this great sage. Dathan and Abiram were great leaders amongst their tribe, and it's because of their jealousy and desire and honor and pursuing all those things that they lost everything and had this really weird, unusual death, being swallowed up by the ground. Now Dathan and Abiram are an interesting case because Dathan and Abiram just follow Korach at some point and sort of join his rebellion, but the rabbis also believed Dathan and Abiram were also the two Jews who were fighting in Egypt that Moses tried to stop. And so when Moses then tries to stop them, they basically tell on him to Pharaoh that he was the one who killed the Egyptian taskmaster earlier, causing Moses to run. So, we see, I think that's a great example here of like, they did something against their own interest, against their own people, out of a sense of like, ooh, I have something to tell. I can get a little ahead of somebody else, and actually destroy themselves in the process, destroy the person who wanted to bring them out of slavery. And then they can't even see clearly the state they're in. And eventually, of course, these are the two same people who follow Korach, again, because they're constantly willing to do things that actually hurt them, that actually destroy them in their pursuit of honor. And the Menorat HaMaor then lists a interesting case where it's actually the opposite, and that is Aaron, Moses' brother. One might expect that Aaron could have been sort of jealous of Moshe, right? He was the firstborn son of Yocheved, so why is Moses the one who becomes the leader? But he doesn't. We actually see that when Moses meets Aaron, coming back from meeting God in the desert, that we are told, according to the Torah in Exodus 4:14, that God says he's going to be, and when he sees you, when Aaron sees you, he will rejoice in his heart. And at least according to the Gemara, according to the Talmud, basically, it tells Rabbi Milai said, as a reward for, and when he sees you, he will rejoice in his heart, meaning because Aaron was not jealous when he sees Moses being the leader and him sort of being his assistant or his mouthpiece. Because of this, Aaron merited the breastplate of judgment upon his heart. So he was able to actually, the Choshen Mishpat is something that the high priest would wear. So it's because of this that he becomes a Kohen Gadol. And so very importantly, though, so it seems that this actually, at least midrashically or godically, according to Rabbi Milai, says that this trait of seeing the good in somebody else and saying, I don't need the honor, it's okay that my brother has it or somebody else has it, even though maybe even I should have it, and I maybe even have a good argument of why I should have it. Even still, like being happy for somebody else, for something that you wish you had, and not trying to take it for yourself or be angry, merits that is one of the major qualities that's required to be the Kohen Gadol, right? To be the head Kohen, to be the head priest that serves in the temple. And the reason, of course, why is because if you're constantly living life with jealousy all the time, and every time someone else has something that you want and you don't have it, and then you get angry at them, you're just going to be an angry person, angry at everybody. And a Kohen Gadol can't be this way. And a Kohen certainly can't be like this either, right? They have to be people who love the Jewish people and love the people in which they're serving. So therefore, this would disqualify this sort of bad trait or bad midah of jealousy, lust, pursuing kavod would actually disqualify a Kohen Gadol. I don't know if that's true halachically, but at least according to Rabbi Milai's Agadata here, it would actually disqualify. And it's one of the central reasons why Aaron had this Choshen Mishpat, or this breastplate, which is one of the unique things that a Kohen Gadol wears. Well, that's it for today, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to the Daily Derech. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to email me anytime at rmr@templeofaaron.org. Thank you so much for listening. There are so many people to thank, and you can look in the show notes for that. And also, if you want to know and see any of these texts in the original, we actually have that too. You can actually find that in our episode description. So look in each of the episode descriptions and you'll find that information right there. Thank you very much. Have a great day, everybody.